Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Justin Loves the Tech. Today we are going to be taking a look at some of the similarities and differences between the Xbox One S controller and the PlayStation 4 Slim controller. Now, these are both the revised versions of the controllers for the current consoles from both Microsoft and Sony. We are also going to be talking a little bit about the Steam controller, but I'm going to do a full review of this later, and it's just going to be a few little comparisons between it. So, I'm going to be talking about these both from a stance of console gaming and from using these with your computer on computer games. The first thing that isn't blatantly obvious if you're not holding both of them is, the PlayStation controller feels quite small in your hand. And the Xbox controller feels much bigger, but not necessarily bigger, it's just a more filled design, where this, you're holding onto a tiny little bar rod. On this controller, you have a nice big block to grab on, and it fits my hand better. Mine aren't necessarily very big or small. And really, I think that the PlayStation controller just feels a little small, like it should be something a little bigger. This is down to personal preference, and I recommend you go to a GameStop or a Best Buy and try them out yourself, something like this. Also, like usual, the Steam controller is humongous, and it feels even bigger than the Xbox controller, so if you go straight from the Steam controller to the PlayStation controller, it feels like you're holding the controller for a midget. Next, we're going to be taking a look at connectivity, and overall, they're really quite similar. On the bottom of the PlayStation controller, you can see we have a headphone. This is a 4-pole that also accepts a microphone port, as well as an extra little piece here for different accessories and such. And on the Xbox controller is quite similar. A 4-pole with a mic headphone port and a little accessories port. And I know that the Xbox does have a chat pad, its little keyboard that you can type with. I don't think the PlayStation really has very many accessories for it. Then when we look at the top, so I do have a rechargeable battery pack in here, but the PlayStation has a USB port, and the Xbox controller also does, which means they can both be plugged directly into a computer. One difference is here, the Xbox USB port is only for like plugging it into a computer, whereas the PlayStation's USB port is for charging the controller. So that's another thing. The PlayStation controller, and also with the PlayStation 3, but this PlayStation 4 controller has an integrated battery that I find lasts for a very long time. And as long as you plug in the controller when you're done, you're never going to run out of power. When, on the other hand, the Xbox controller, it's designed to run off of standard AA batteries. Now, they do sell first-party, and this is a third-party battery pack. But by factory defaults, it runs off of AA's, which is, it's not the best. So yeah, there's that much of it. Now, also, for their wireless connectivity, they are both able to run Bluetooth or connect to the consoles via their own semi-proprietary form. So that means that they can connect to a computer that has Bluetooth, they can connect to a computer with USB, and they can connect to a console wirelessly, or wired, I guess. The next thing to look at is the overall buttons and their design on the controller. As we can see, they both have a D-pad, they both have a left and right joystick, and they both have 4 buttons on the right side. In addition, they both have 2 option manipulation buttons, and on the back, they both have triggers and bumpers. But the PlayStation has this trackpad here. It's a very interesting concept and is interesting to type with, although not all that functional, because it's a trackpad, but you kind of have to, like, it's mapped so here is always here on the screen. It's not like a mouse where you move it around. It's its final position. And you can only use one thumb at a time to type with. I would prefer something like on the Steam controller where each thumb gets half the keyboard, but all on one so that you can type a little faster. Other than being used for typing on a keyboard and acting as an extra button, because it does have a left click, I have not once seen it be used in a game. I have not seen a single game that uses the trackpad, just the clickiness of it. So it's an interesting concept, but with no support, there's no real point in it. So another thing that the PlayStation controller has that the Xbox controller doesn't is it has a gyroscope. It can tell if you're going up and down like this, and I have not tried any racing games, but it's almost never used. And it also is a feature that you can type with. You can, like, act as if you're pointing the controller at the letters on the keyboard, but it's very slow and more of a gimmick than anything. Like I said, I have not had any racing games, which it might be interesting and useful on that. But other than that, yeah, I don't know. It's not to say any of these innovations are a bad thing, just that I haven't really seen them implemented anywhere in any way useful. So, I'm not trying to say that they're a bad thing or there's something against this controller. It's just a little weird. Next up, taking a look at the left and right triggers. Now, as you can see, the Xbox has a very smooth, flowing design on the trigger, to where there's no sharp edges and it's all kind of rounded. Where the PlayStation's almost the opposite. It just sticks it out there and it's got these right angles around the outside edge of it. And when you're just messing around with it, you think that it's going to jab into you over time. But through my time playing with the PlayStation, I have never had a single one of those issues. So the Xbox is always nice, but really, if you're not just trying to force it and you're actually playing with it, those edges never really dig into your skin at all, and they actually feel quite reasonable. So yeah, it's not bad. Now, next thing we're going to look at is the joysticks. One thing, well, they both do have a click, but one thing that can not really be noticed unless you're using both at once like this is the PlayStation, it takes more effort to move the joystick around. It's slightly harder to move around. It's also slightly harder to click on, which probably is good, because I don't know how many of you have done it, but oftentimes I'll be like pushing hard on a joystick forward and I'll accidentally click it down and activate like ducking or something. And that's really annoying. This is a little harder, and especially when you're up, it's harder, so that's probably an overall better design. One thing I noticed is that the effective, it's not even the right term when used for mouse, but like the effective DPI of the controller is much higher on the PlayStation. So like, if you both use both controllers to look, you would move much further, and you move much faster with the PlayStation. So when I was playing with the Xbox on games, I noticed that, you know, it's moving a little slower than I like, because I'm one of those people that'll, like, while I'm walking forward, I'll, like, completely turn around just to make sure there's no one behind me. So I like to be able just to fly around. The Xbox, while not horrible, is definitely slower than the PlayStation. With the PlayStation, when you move, you move. You're not just kind of, like, looking, you're going to be looking. So, it's an overall interesting design. I know that several games you can adjust the sensitivity, but by stock defaults, this is a much more sensitive controller with the joysticks. One other extra feature that is with the PlayStation controller is that it has this little speaker here. And like, again, just like the trackpad and the gyroscope, it's an interesting idea, but I have never seen it implemented in any real game, and it's not very useful. So, it's nothing to count against it, but I don't know. So, one thing to think about is support and compatibility. Now, these controllers, compatibility is pretty much identical. They can sync to basically anything. But one thing to look at is the Xbox controller on games that weren't designed for controllers, so like your Team Fortress 2 and your other Source Engine games on PC, has better support, because you can put in that command to run an Xbox 360 controller and it's compatible. When on the PlayStation, no, there's nothing like that. But when you are looking at games that have built-in factory support for controllers, they're pretty much universal in support. So you guys are probably hoping for me to say, well, there's a big issue with this one, so definitely go with this one. Or there's a big problem with this one, so definitely go with this guy. But if you're looking to get a controller for your PC, go with what you like. Really, their functionality is about the same, and what isn't can basically be adjusted. I personally do prefer the Xbox controller for its more form-fitting design. It's not trying to, like, just be a weird shape. It is a weird shape, but it fits better. It just feels better. To me, it feels better, because I like the larger design than this smaller design here. But, like I mentioned, if you don't know what you want to get, Their functionality is basically the same. Go to your Best Buy, your GameStop, even your Walmart or your Target, and just try both of them out. See how they feel in your hands. And go from there. As far as a controller for a video game system, I do prefer the shape of the Xbox, but the PlayStation controller is very interesting because it does have that higher, what I'm calling DPI but isn't, but the higher sensitivity of the sticks. And I think it has a little better compatibility because Windows is trying to lock you into Windows. But that doesn't mean you should go with it. There is no PC game that's going to use the trackpad or going to use the gyroscope or going to use the speaker. Now, one last thing to look at, to think about. What's the biggest difference between these two controllers? This one has a stick, and the sticks are diagonally offset. When this one here, the sticks are right next to each other. Now, up until recently, I've only ever owned an Xbox, and I used the sticks like the sticks, you know, just diagonally offset from each other. So I thought, you know, switching over to messing with the PlayStation, this is going to feel weird, or trying to use the D-pad or something is going to feel weird, and admittedly, it takes a bit to get adjusted to using the D-pad up here instead of down below, but overall, I've never had issues with my thumbs smacking into each other or something, and I really didn't notice the difference all that much. It's not as big of a deal as I thought it would end up being, and really, the PlayStation, it is a bit more comfortable not going like this, but not enough to really make it worth getting this one over the other one. It's just kind of slightly noticeable. Now, when looking at these from a console point of view, if you were only to decide on the controller, should I go with a PlayStation or should I buy an Xbox? Really, it's kind of up in the air. They are very similar controllers designed to do similar things. It's easier for developers to develop for them that way. I can say, overall, final review, I like the feel of the Xbox controller better. As far as the actual grip, and I do prefer these triggers a bit. As far as the actual top layout buttons, I think I am starting to like the joysticks lower and buttons higher, like on the PlayStation. And I definitely like the higher default sensitivity of the PlayStation sticks. It makes it much easier in first-person shooter games than the Xbox with its slower look speeds. The included battery is a big plus. You don't have to go spend $20 to get a battery pack or just constantly replace AA batteries. It's there and it's good. But you're going to have to remember to charge it. Now, like I've mentioned, as long as you plug it in when you're done using it, and you're not like a store who's going to be running this for 12 hours a day unplugged, you're never going to run into an issue with battery life. It lasts probably around 8 hours, and like, yeah, it's amazing. Where on the Xbox, its battery life for this this unofficial charge pack, which isn't one of the better quality ones, is still very good, and will last about 6 hours or so. But by factory defaults, it uses AA's. That is a disadvantage to me. I would really prefer an integrated pack. So overall, they're pretty similar, and it really shouldn't be a decider. And I don't know if I could even pick a favorite. I know people probably want me to. But really, there's good benefits to both. You got the good feel here, you got the good sticks here, and the button arrangement's alright once you get used to it. And it's got some interesting things that may catch on in the future, but right now aren't a big deal. So, that's kind of my look at the controllers. Yeah, thanks for watching. I hopefully will have a kind of overview of the Steam controller coming out soon. I need to finish filming that and stuff and get that edited down. Also, I am looking to do a Xbox One versus PS4, or an Xbox One S versus PS4 Slim $300 console race. And I've like gone out and just got tons of games for both of the consoles just so I can, you know, see which is better. So a few of these I only have on each console. But, you know, I tried to get a good variety. So for both of the consoles, I have Doom, I have Fallout 4, I have Final Fantasy 15, and I have Minecraft, and that appears to not be focusing. But yeah, so I have those for both of the consoles, along with a few console exclusives that I'm going to go through, do footage comparison and all that, as well as overall feature comparison. So if you want to see that, hit the thumbs up button, and I'll try and get that out, because my next few weeks are quite busy. I'm going on a trip to Seattle, and then I am moving. And so I'm going to try and get stuff out, but no promises there in the next few weeks. So yeah, if you liked the video, hit thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you hated it for some reason, you thought it was just a waste of time, go ahead and hit thumbs down. But yeah, thanks for watching, and have a good day.